The moment the little girl flinched, just a small, quick tremor, barely noticeable to anyone else, something deep inside Aaron tightened. It happened so fast, a shadow passing overhead, the rustle of a grocery bag, and suddenly the child sitting on the park bench froze like a startled bird, trying desperately not to be seen. Her mother's hand tightened around hers, lips pulling into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Most people strolling past the quiet green field in suburban Ohio wouldn't have noticed anything unusual, but Aaron, a single father who had learned the hard way how fear hides behind silence, recognized that look instantly. He knew what it meant when a child's shoulders stiffened for no reason. He had seen it in his own son during the most difficult days of their lives. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us why compassion still matters, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support truly helps. The air was cool, the sun gentle, the kind of peaceful morning parents cherish. But beneath that calmness, something fragile trembled in the space between the woman and her daughter. Aaron couldn't walk away, not when every instinct he had sharpened over the years urged him to stay close. He sat at a respectful distance on another part of the bench, pretending to check his phone while subtly watching the interaction. The woman looked exhausted in a way sleep couldn't fix. Her maroon sweater hung slightly too loose, and her eyes darted around the park, as if expecting someone to appear at any moment. The girl, who couldn't have been older than 6, clutched the edge of her pink coat like it was armor. Her light brown hair was tied in a small top knot, but some strands had fallen free, framing a face that looked brighter than her mother's, yet wary. Aaron had been raising his son, Noah, alone since his wife left 2 years ago, taking their savings and breaking something inside Noah that took months to piece back together. In those months, Aaron had become familiar with the small signs of a child, afraid of unpredictability, the extra long pauses before answering questions, the way they tried to take up as little space as possible, the constant need to read the emotions of every adult around them. Watching the little girl on the bench, it was like seeing a reflection of Noah from those painful early days. It pulled at Aaron in a way he could ignore. He glanced toward the far side of the park, scanning for anyone who might be watching them or approaching. Maybe they were just having a rough week. Maybe he was reading too much into it. But the moment he saw the mother wince when a distant car door slammed, a sound too far to be a threat yet loud enough to draw her attention, he realized this wasn't just stress, this was fear. Controlled, contained, hidden for the child as socket. A gust of wind blew across the field, rustling leaves and brushing against the brown grocery bag at their feet. Inside were fresh vegetables, neatly arranged, as though someone had packed them carefully with intention. He didn't know why, but the sight of that bag full of ordinary, peaceful things felt like a quiet rebellion, like the woman was desperately trying to build normalcy for her daughter despite something far heavier weighing on their lives. Aaron shifted slightly, ensuring his tone stayed gentle when he finally spoke. He did ask questions. Did he intrude? He simply commented on the weather, the park, the beautiful morning. Normal, harmless things meant to offer safety. To his relief, the little girl responded first, timid but curious, and her mother allowed herself a small, grateful smile, as if someone had just handed her a breath of fresh air. As the minutes passed, Aaron learned their names: Grace the mother and Hannah the daughter. They did volunteer much else, but Grace's guarded posture said enough. Each time Hannah turned her head, Grace scanned the area. Every sound made her shoulders twitch before she forced them still. Aaron sensed the layers of a story hidden beneath practiced smiles, like pages worn thin by too much rereading. The turning point came when a man's voice echoed from across the field, not directed at them, but loud enough to carry. Grace stiffened instantly, her hand clutching Hannah's knee with instinctive protectiveness. Hannah's eyes dropped, and Aaron watched as she tried to mask her reaction, her small fingers curling into her coat. That was when Aaron realized the truth. He didn't know who they were running from, but they were running. He didn't pry, didn't push, but he shifted closer, not enough to intimidate, just enough to offer presence. Sometimes the simplest form of protection is proximity. Grace noticed, exhaled shakily, and for the first time, looked at him with something more than politeness, something like silent pleading. Aaron remembered the night Noah finally broke down, telling him he was afraid his mom would come back and take him away. He remembered sitting on the kitchen floor with his son in his arms, promising that he would always keep him safe. That memory washed over him now like a tide. Slowly, Grace began sharing fragments. Not details, just the edges of the truth. She mentioned they had moved suddenly. She said she was looking for a new start. She said Hannah was adjusting. But the tremor in her voice told Aaron that the word adjusting carried the weight of trauma. He didn't need specifics to understand. He simply offered reassurance in the form of steady presence, a calming tone, and the kind of sincere kindness that doesn't demand anything in return. Hannah eventually reached for an orange from the grocery bag, and Aaron noticed. Grace's eyes softened when she saw her daughter relax even a little. That small moment of normalcy seemed to ground them both. Over the next hours, as the park slowly emptied and shadows stretched across the grass, something softened between the three of them. Not familiarity. Grace wasn't ready for that, but trust, the first tender beginnings of it. And when Aaron stood to leave, Hannah spoke first, her quiet voice carrying more courage than it had earlier. Grace's eyes shimmered with a mix of fear and hope, the two emotions of someone desperate for safety yet scared to accept it. Aaron walked away only after making sure they had his number written on a small slip of paper, framed in gentle words, "If you ever need help, anytime." He didn't know if she would ever call, but he hoped she would, because no one should have to hide fear alone, especially a child. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep creating meaningful stories. Before you leave, comment below what moment in the story moved you the most.